So we have to have a chat. So, ladies, gentlemen, other stockholders and simps, gather round for one of the most shocking developments in gaming history. A scandal so heinous, so unthinkable, that it makes EA look generous and Activision Blizzard seem like a workers' rights advocate. So Nintendo has put a button on a controller behind a paywall. Yes, you heard that right. The company that once saved gaming from the crash of '83 has now decided that pressing a physical button on your controller is a premium feature. It's like buying a car and being told that the horn costs extra. Monthly. Forever. This is the same company that thinks releasing 3 N64 games a year onto Switch Online is generous support. The same company that celebrates Mario's anniversary by making games temporarily available and then deleting them forever. The same company that looks at fan projects with the same enthusiasm of vampire shows for Garlic, if vampires had an army of lawyers, and if Garlic was a Metroid 2 remake. But wait, before you rush to Nintendo's defense faster than they rushed to copyright strike a YouTuber who dared hum the Mario theme, let me be clear. I actually do love Nintendo. The original Zelda is my favorite game, and I've beaten it more times than Nintendo has sued fan projects. But sometimes you have to call out the people you love, especially when they're acting like that drunk uncle at Thanksgiving who keeps trying to sell everyone NFTs. So today, as the debut video for my new channel, Under the Hood Gaming, we're going to talk about how Nintendo went on from being the savior of gaming to thinking that a button is DLC, why the Switch 2 is just a very expensive way to play games that you already have, and how all of this is part of Nintendo's master plan to make you pay for things that used to be free, like online play, cloud saves, and now, pressing buttons. Buckle up, because this ride costs $50 a year, seatbelt functionality not included. So let's get this straight. You buy a Switch 2 for $450. It comes with a controller. On that controller is a GameChat button. You press it, and nothing happens, because you haven't paid your Nintendo tax yet. This is peak Nintendo innovation. This is like buying a keyboard where the letter E requires a subscription. Sorry, but vowels are premium content. Consonants only for free users. After all, this is the same company that thought friend codes were better than just, usernames. The same geniuses who looked at achievements, a feature that every other platform has for free, even mobile, and said, what if we made this, but worse, and charged for it? Nintendo developing online features is like watching your grandpa try to use TikTok. So back to the Game Chat button. You may be thinking the Game Chat button is included with Nintendo Switch Online. I've seen this argument everywhere. And everyone has that anyway. So no one is paying to use a button on a controller. It's basically free. Well, let me just update my dictionary then, because apparently included in a paid subscription now means free. This is the same company, of course, that includes voice chat with their online service through an app on your phone. Because nothing says next-gen gaming like needing 2 devices to talk to your friends while playing your game. It's like Nintendo saw Xbox Live in 2002 and said, we'll get to that in like 20 years, but we'll make it worse and more expensive. And we can't ignore the precedent here. Nintendo is testing the waters like a mob boss. It's a nice controller you got there. Shame if something happened to its buttons. So today, it's the Game Chat button. Tomorrow, the B button now requires the jump pass, only $2.99 a month. Walking is still free, of course. That's what Nintendo will say while preparing the walking pass for 2026, and people will go online and defend this. Sony might say analog triggers are now PlayStation Plus Ultra Mega exclusive, making them digital only for those who, don't want to pay this extra fee. This is perfect for Nintendo, who seems to not understand the value of analog triggers in the first place. The home button may require Nintendo Home Plus because going home should cost extra. Just ask their employees during crunch time. And maybe for the Steam Deck too, touchpad functionality requires Steam Plus, but don't worry, the screen still works in 480p. 4K, of course, requires Steam Plus Pro. I'm kidding, obviously. We don't have to worry about Valve doing any of these things for reasons we'll talk about in a little bit. PC gaming has competition. It's an open market. If Valve tried to pull this kind of shit, we would just flee and go to GOG and the Epic Store. Where is this going to end? It was initially, it's fine to pay for online gaming, cloud saving, all of that, Nintendo Switch Online, blah, 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 blah. And now there's a literal button, an actual literal button on your controller requiring you to pay a fee in order to use it. I'm not crying that the sky is falling here. Well, I am, actually. But it's because the sky is falling, everyone. Guys, look. Girls, look around. Nintendo is charging you for a button that is on your controller. This is not some extra addition. This is a thing that is designed to be there, and you're being charged to use it. It's not an exaggeration to say, maybe next they're going to charge you to use the X button, or the A button, or pause the game. Why would we believe those things are off the table at this point? Because this is the same company that thinks backing up your saves to the cloud is a premium feature, even though they don't give you a way to back up your data locally. So not having your data held hostage is apparently a luxury now, like having a controller that doesn't drift. Oh, wait, they haven't fixed that either, by all accounts. They just had their legal team write a TOS where you can't engage in a class action lawsuit against them. Because I guess that's cheaper than fixing the drift. So I said a moment ago that Valve is never going to pull this kind of crap, and I stand by that statement. I have my own issues with Valve and Steam, with very few exceptions. Valve is the most benign gaming company out there. And because of that, you know what doesn't require a subscription to use basic functionality? PC gaming. On PC, every button works out of the box. I know that's a revolutionary concept, and I can hear Nintendo shaking their heads. Basic functionality, working without extra fees? That sounds terrible for shareholders. On PC, you can chat for free. You can save your games without Nintendo holding your data, and you can back them up locally or to whatever cloud service you prefer. But Valve, via Steam, will also do it for you. Plus on PC you can, and hold on to your seats for this one, play online without paying anyone, except your internet service provider. Meanwhile, Nintendo's lawyers are trying to determine to whom to serve a cease and desist against the very concept of free online play. But Aria, you cry, tears streaming down your face like a Nintendo executive watching someone play a ROM. What about all those Nintendo exclusives? Well, let me tell you a secret that makes Nintendo angrier than a fan game existing for more than 5 minutes. Breath of the Wild runs better on PC than on Switch. It has a higher resolution, better frame rates, mods that add actual content, instead of Nintendo's groundbreaking pay $70 for the same game again. It's like Nintendo made a game and then modders said, that's cute, let me fix your homework, and they did, for free. Which probably violates 17 Nintendo principles about never giving customers anything without charging at least 3 times. And before anyone clutches their pearls about legality, look, Nintendo charges you to press a button. They have forfeited the moral high ground so hard that it's now deeper than the crater where they bury fan projects. PC gaming, on the other hand, is what happens when there's actual competition. Valve can't charge for online play because Epic would eat their lunch. Epic can't lock features behind paywalls because GOG would steal their users. It's beautiful free market competition at work. The kind that Nintendo forgets about when they realize their fans will pay $50 a year for the privilege of using their own internet connection that they already pay for. Meanwhile, Nintendo's over there like, competition? Never heard of her. Is that a fan-made Pokemon or something? Cease and desist it immediately. And on PC, backward compatibility just exists. Forever, for free. You might have to do a little messing around and tinkering to make a game from, 25 years ago work on a modern PC, but it's not that difficult. And on GOG, most of these games will have that done for you via DOSBox. Nintendo saw this and thought, what if we do that, but for only 12 games a year, chosen at random, and you have to pay monthly? And we'll also remove them eventually and without warning because we hate preservation more than we hate reasonable pricing. So let's do some quick math. A Switch 2, not the bundle, $450. One game, which is Mario Kart World, the only new game available for the Nintendo Switch 2, $70. If you buy the digital versions, it's $80 if you buy the physical release, but we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and say $70. The privilege of playing online, $50 a year, and the ability to use that GameChat button that you already paid for, well, that only costs your dignity. The total here is $570 plus your dignity to play one racing game online with voice chat. And I kind of understand why it's so expensive. I mean, someone has to pay for Nintendo's legal fees when they go after grandmothers on Etsy who are selling Pokemon cookies. But for this price, for $570, you could buy a Steam Deck and have money left over, $170, for a bunch of games. And right now there's the Steam Summer Sale going on, so you can get games for $80, $85. I've seen them up to 95% off. You could purchase 114 copies of Vampire Survivors. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you could. You could fund an indie developer to make Mario Kart, a legally distinct racing game that Nintendo would sue anyway because the main character has a mustache. You could also pay for 1 hour of Nintendo's lawyers' times as they hunt down a 12-year-old's Mario fan art. But by all accounts, Mario Kart World isn't even that good. It's Mario Kart 8 with an open world that nobody asked for because Nintendo looked at their perfectly good racing game and said, you know what this needs? Commuting. They turned Mario Kart into a driving simulator where the racing is optional. But the open world adds so much content. Content? You know what Nintendo thinks content is? Charging you $20 to make Link's breath slightly more wild. Content to Nintendo is releasing Skyward Sword HD for $60. Stickers for your vehicle is not content. And you know what? I think most people agree with me. Because the most popular games on Switch 2 right now are the 5-year-old Breath of the Wild and the 2-year-old Tears of the Kingdom. While the only third-party game that's selling worth anything is the 5-year-old Cyberpunk 2077. There's also the fact that people playing online had found a workaround for this little commuting intermission tracks, they're called. The highway driving that exists between races that is being called intermission races or intermission tracks, whatever. People found a way around those online by choosing random in versus mode or something like that. And recently, Nintendo patched that out. So gamers have found a way to play Mario Kart World the way they wanted, and Nintendo said, no, you're going to play the game the way we want. And the result is that people are going online and modifying their reviews of Mario Kart World, as well as leaving new negative reviews. And in the last few days, the aggregate score of Mario Kart World has dropped about half a point. Quick side note to games media out there, this is not review bombing. When there's a justifiable reaction to an update that removes content from the game that people liked, that's not review bombing, that's just reviewing. But overall, the most heartbreaking part of all of this isn't that Nintendo's greed grows faster than their list of cease and desist targets. No, really, the worst part is watching gamers defend it. It's only $50 a year. Everyone has Nintendo Switch Online anyway. At least it's not as bad as insert worst thing here. And this is what Nintendo has done to people. Nintendo could announce that jumping in Mario now requires a subscription, and their fans would say, well, you can still walk for free. And honestly, jumping was overpowered anyway. But for f***'s sake, you are paying to use a button that you already bought. Nintendo can announce that jumping in Mario now requires a real-world jump detected by a $70 Nintendo Fit board, and their fans would say, well, it's promoting health. Thank you, Nintendo, for caring about our well-being. Also, my knees hurt, but that's probably unrelated. I read an article defending this practice. The author said, and I quote, we need to support developers. Support developers? Nintendo has more money than some small countries. They're not some struggling indie dev. They're the freaking Disney of gaming, if Disney was run by people who think the internet is a series of tubes that should be individually monetized. This is the company that discovered people enjoy their old games and thought, how can we make this worse and more expensive? So they invented Nintendo Switch Online, where you can play 20 NES games for the low price of more than those games cost originally, adjusted for inflation, forever. Or maybe not forever, until Nintendo randomly removes them from Nintendo Switch Online. Meanwhile, the same people defending Nintendo's greed are broke. 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, but they're online being internet tough guys like, it's just $50, bro. It's only the price of a game. Yeah, but a full game, not the ability to use a button. In Nintendo's mind, the cost of using a button on a controller that you already bought is the same as the cost of a game. Well, the cost of other people's games, because of course Nintendo thinks their games are about 25% more valuable than everyone else's. So these Nintendo stans out there who are pretending like their credit cards are not crying, these are the same people who got excited when Nintendo added N64 games to Nintendo Switch Online at double the price, with worse emulation than free emulators from 2003. Nintendo literally charged people to experience lag that did not exist on the original hardware. But let's pretend like this paywalled button isn't a sign of the gaming apocalypse. You know, like how Nintendo pretends Joy-Con drift doesn't exist? Let's pretend that $450 for hardware weaker than your phone is reasonable. Let's live in Nintendo's fantasy land where charging full price for Wii U ports is adding value. Where are the games? The Switch 2 launched with Mario Kart World, which I like to call Mario Kart 8, now with commuting. Eventually, sometime next month, Donkey Kong Country returns again, maybe, eventually, next month. This is to make sure that you don't play everything available and run out of games to play. Nintendo delayed Donkey Kong intentionally, even though it was ready. I mean, they could have made more games to keep you occupied, but why do that when they can just delay their own games and then drip feed them to you, right? Because baby can't pace themselves when playing. Don't forget that the Switch 2 also has ports of games that were old when Nintendo was still pretending that the Wii U would succeed. The best part of all of this, the $10 tech demo that should have been free. There's no new Zelda, no new 3D Mario, no new 2D Mario, no mainline Pokemon, just Donkey Kong looking confused as to why he's supposed to be carrying a console launch now. This is the same ape that couldn't carry the N64 expansion pack, resulting in it being directly bundled together with the game instead of being sold separately. But I like this whole thing. I like what Nintendo is doing because I like money, and this inspires me to open a restaurant where the main course is coming soon and the appetizer is like leftovers from freaking 2017, and the dessert? That's getting sued when you ask where the food is. Nintendo's big brain strategy is, let's launch our console with games that everyone already owns, but get this, we'll charge full price. It's genius. So right now, Cyberpunk 2077 on Nintendo Switch 2 is going for $70, while on PC, Cyber 2077 Ultimate Edition, which includes both the game and the expansion Phantom Liberty, is 53% off and runs you $38. I mean, this is Nintendo, right? They took Link's Awakening, a 30-year-old game that was $30 in 1993. They added absolutely no content to it, and then made it run worse than the original Game Boy game, and then charged $60 for it. A quick little thing, because I can't be bothered to re-record that, they did add some content to it, this little dungeon maker kind of thing that I've never experimented with, and that was so limited and so bare bones that I don't think anyone enjoyed it, and it might as well not be there. So what are people supposed to play while waiting 1 to 4 years for Nintendo to make some actual worthwhile first-party games? Wind Waker, of course, again, for the third time, because nothing says next-gen gaming like a game that Nintendo fans begged for, and then, in true Nintendo fashion, were given the inferior GameCube version instead of the more recent HD remaster that fixes a lot of its problems. Because obviously, if Nintendo is going to bring over Wind Waker HD, it's costing $70 out of the gate. It's not going to be included in Nintendo Switch Online. There were a lot of people out there who seemed to think that the HD version from the Wii U would be included with Nintendo Switch Online. They did not think they would get the GameCube version. I don't know why they thought that. It's the GameCube emulator on Nintendo Switch 2. You're getting the GameCube version of games. I would expect that offhand. But on top of that, this is Nintendo. Do you really think that they're going to bring over Wind Waker HD and not charge you $70 for it? They absolutely are going to charge you $70 for it. And then they're going to bring over Twilight Princess HD and charge you $70 for that as well, because this is the company that saw Microsoft competing with cutting-edge technology and said, what if we made online functionality worse than a 2001 Dreamcast? So with the Nintendo Switch 2, where's the new Mario? Where's Zelda? Where's anything to play on this freaking thing? Well, they're being delayed so that features can be removed and sold back to you as DLC. Just like they did with Hero Mode of Breath of the Wild. You know, the same game, but slightly harder. By the way, that'll be $20. But Aria, the Switch 2 has third-party support. You can play Elden Ring. Oh, my sweet summer child. You can play Elden Ring, as JRose11 would say, as Nintended 3 years late, at the resolution of a YouTube video from 2009, running at frame rates that would make a PowerPoint presentation blush, all for the low, low price of full retail. Because if there's one thing Nintendo loves more than suing fan artists, it's charging premium prices for inferior versions. You know who already played Elden Ring? Everyone. Everyone who wanted to play Elden Ring has already played it. Even Nintendo's absurdly aggressive lawyers have played Elden Ring. The Switch 2 is where third-party games go to die deaths slower than Miitomo. Third-party games on the Switch 2 are like Nintendo's birthday celebrations for Mario. You know, where they release 3-year-old games and then delete them from existence, like some sort of corporate Thanos who hates money and game preservation. Color me unimpressed that the Switch 2 can run 4-year-old games. Publishers porting to Switch 2 are like chefs being asked to cook a gourmet meal with an easy-bake oven. Sure, it's technically possible, but why would you do that to yourself? Oh, right, because Nintendo fans will buy Skyrim for the 18th time if you put Mario's hat in it as a $15 DLC. Except they won't, as third-party sales on the Switch 2 are proving. The Switch 2's next-gen feature is playing last-gen games for next-gen prices, and we saw this before. This exact thing happened with the Wii U. So when are we getting actual games that aren't ports of 5-year-old games that we've already played? Honestly, I wouldn't expect a 3D Mario before 2027, which incidentally could be the same year Nintendo finally discovers what netcode means. Coincidentally, also the year they'll charge you separately for Mario's hat and mustache. A new mainline Zelda? Again, I'm not exaggerating here. I'm being honest. I would say you're not going to get a new Zelda before 2028. It will be a new and innovative Zelda by having 3 paywalled buttons and graphics that almost match the PS4. I can see it now, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of Your Wallet, where every shrine costs 99 cents and weapons break even faster, but replacements are available in the Nintendo eShop. Pokemon? Well, Game Freak looked at Nintendo's hardware and said, yeah, we're good actually. They're making games for platforms that don't require a magnifying glass to see the pixels. But don't worry, Pokemon Legends Z8 is coming for all 12 people who wanted Pokemon, but worse. Please understand, we are working hard on games. Here's our roadmap. 2025, more Wii U ports. Now, 10% more expensive. 2026 will be the year of reminding you that we own Mario. 2027, maybe, if you're good, a new game. Surprise! It's Mario Kart World DLC. That'll be $30. 2028, revolutionary new feature, buttons that work without subscriptions. Haha, we're kidding. It'll be more paywalls. Nintendo fans are literally paying $450 to join a waiting list. And despite people heralding the success of the Switch 2 because it sold out at launch, even though every console sells out at launch, do you know what this reminds me of? The Wii U. But Aria, the Switch 2 is selling well. So did the Wii U at launch. Every console sells out at launch. The only console I can think of that did not sell out at launch was the Virtual Boy. But it's easy to sell out at launch when you just don't make enough of the consoles to meet demands, and that is Nintendo's favorite magic trick: artificial scarcity. Remember when Nintendo couldn't produce enough NES Classics, or SNES Classics, or holy shit, Amiibos? That fiasco went on for years. or literally any product they've ever made, Nintendo creates fake scarcity like a drug dealer, but they're peddling nostalgia. The Wii U failed because it had no games. Full stop. Contrary to popular idiocy that the Wii U failed because people didn't know it was a console, the Wii U actually failed because it didn't ever receive a 3D Mario, and it received a new Zelda so late in its life that it simultaneously launched for the Switch, and most people don't even remember that Breath of the Wild was a Wii U game. Only the soccer moms who bought the Wii because it was that year's Furby didn't understand what the Wii U was. Gamers knew. How little respect do you have for your fellow gamers to think that the people you're playing Call of Duty with didn't know that the Wii U was a new console? They knew, but they didn't care because the Wii U had nothing worth playing. Just like the Switch 2 has nothing worth playing. Like the Switch 2, the Wii U had a bunch of ports of third-party games. It was heralded as this monumental achievement that the third-party games that people had missed out on during the Wii era were finally becoming playable on a Nintendo console. Games like Arkham Origins, I can't think of any others on the top of my head, but this was a big deal. Ubisoft was going all in on the Wii U. People were excited. It was finally getting these games that were 2, 3, 4 years old, and then they realized that it couldn't get new games, right? The Wii U released in 2013, so it got a bunch of games from 2010, 2011. And when a new game came out in 2014, it couldn't be ported to the Wii U because the hardware was out of date when it released. And that's the same thing we're seeing with the Switch 2 right now. You're out of your mind if you think Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. They would have to downscale it so much that it would be unrecognizable. And the beauty of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of the main appeals of the game. And this is going to be true of other games that are released in 2025 and 2026 and so on. They're not going to come to the Switch 2. Even if third-party games on the Switch 2 were selling well, it wouldn't be worth it to them to create this entirely new edition with inferior graphics, with everything scaled down, and to release it on the Nintendo platform when they don't have to downscale it to release it on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Why would they go through the work? But it's even worse than that, because third-party games simply are not selling on the Nintendo Switch 2. And the reason for this is obvious. As I said, everyone who wanted to play Elden Ring has already played it. They already have it on PC or PlayStation or whatever. And this is the case with all of these third-party ports that came to the Switch 2. If you wanted to play them, you've already played them. Cyberpunk 2077 seems to be the only exception to this, and I don't know why it's the exception, but it does seem to be selling well, but nothing else is. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are the most played games on the Nintendo Switch 2. Not anything third party. People aren't bothering because they've already played those games. Just like they had already played Arkham Origins when it released onto Wii U. Why buy it again? They've already done that. They've already played through it. They're done with it. We're seeing history repeat itself, and for all of the cries of how successful the Nintendo Switch 2 is and how it has sold out at launch, it's still singing the same song of the Nintendo Wii U. It has no games, and there are no games for it in the near future. Nintendo fans are going to be hurting in the very near future. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and we are repeating the Nintendo Wii U era. The only difference between the Wii U and the Switch 2 is that Wii U owners knew they were suffering. They were unhappy about it. They bought this thing and knew they didn't have any games for it. The only game they had was New Super Mario Bros. Wii U. And the only game that Switch 2 owners have is Mario Kart World. But Wii U owners did at least know that they were suffering, and Nintendo was doing damage control almost immediately. The Nintendo Wii U released in October or November or something, and in January or February of the following year, Nintendo did a Nintendo Direct where they were like, look guys, totes for real, we are working on games. Just be patient and we're going to give you games. They promised us that they would eventually have games to play on it. And they did 2 or 3 years later. But you're out of your mind if you're expecting a mainline Mario or a mainline Pokemon or a mainline Zelda anytime soon. If they had these games in the works, if they had footage to show you, they would have showed it to you. The fact that they haven't showed any footage for these games means they're not far enough along in development to even have footage to show you. And that means they're at least 1 year away, probably 2, probably 3 for the more complicated ones like a new 3D Mario or a new Zelda. These games are very far away, just like with the Wii U. Switch 2 owners are paying for the privilege of waiting for games, and they're thanking Nintendo for the opportunity. It's like Stockholm Syndrome, but with a subscription fee. So what do? If hopefully you're like me and you're looking at this mess and desperately trying to get people to stop giving Nintendo money, how do we stop Nintendo from turning gaming into a subscription service where you pay monthly for the right to pay more monthly and wait on games to come out? Well, it's really simple. Don't buy a Switch 2. And if you've already bought a Switch 2, don't buy any more of their games. Cancel your Nintendo Switch Online subscription. Cut your losses and walk away. It's not worth your dignity. It's not worth the damage they are doing to the gaming industry to continue to support them. And I know, but Aria, what about Mario? What about Zelda? Yeah, no, there is no Mario. There is no Zelda. Mario and Zelda are more absent than Nintendo's understanding of fair use. You're paying $450 to join a waiting list for a Mario and Zelda game that will exist someday. You're basically pre-ordering hardware for software that only exists in the same realm as Nintendo's reasonable pricing, the realm of pure fantasy. So vote with your wallet. Show Nintendo that we won't accept paywall buttons, $80 games with less content than $50 games, launching consoles with fewer games than Nintendo has lawyers, and we won't accept treating loyal fans like ATMs that occasionally play Mario. Demand better. You deserve better than what Nintendo thinks you deserve, which, based on their actions, is somewhere between nothing and whatever crumbs they feel like dropping. Also, the crumbs are $70. Stop defending them. They're not your friend. Nintendo views you the same way they view fan games. You are something to extract money from before destroying. The only difference is that you're paying Nintendo for the privilege of having them view you like something to extract money from with the minimal amount of effort. Every purchase tells Nintendo, yes, I love paying for buttons. In fact, why stop there? Charge me to blink while playing, please. Charge me per jump in Mario. Charge me for the privilege of waiting 3 years for a real game. Break the cycle. Stop letting Nintendo gaslight you into thinking this is normal. It's not normal to pay for button functionality. It's not normal to launch a console with 0 system sellers. It's not normal for a company to have worse online infrastructure than a 2003 flip phone. And every time you defend Nintendo's anti-consumer practices, you're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting gaming more than Nintendo hurt Super Smash Bros. Melee tournaments. Remember that? When Nintendo shut down online tournaments of their own game because, actually, nobody really knows why. It's like Nintendo is allergic to their fans having fun without paying them extra for it. By supporting Nintendo, you're telling every company that it's okay to charge for basic functionality. You're saying, yes, please make my hobby more expensive and less fun. Today it's a chat button. In 2030, we'll be paying subscriptions to look at our game libraries. Sorry, but viewing your purchased games requires Nintendo Visual Pass. But don't worry, you can still sense their presence spiritually for free. The company that saved gaming in 1985 now looks at gamers the way they look at Mother 3 localization requests, with a mixture of confusion and mild contempt. They are testing how much abuse you will take. And it doesn't have to be this way. You can demand better. You can refuse to pay for buttons that are on a controller that you already bought. We can say, no, Nintendo, we won't pay $500 for a Mario Kart machine that has fewer games than the Nintendo 64 did at launch. Or we can keep pretending that everything is fine while Nintendo brainstorms which human right to monetize next. The choice is yours. But choose wisely. Choose like your gaming future depends on it, because it does. And remember, friends don't let friends pay for buttons. And friends also don't let friends defend Nintendo online for free when Nintendo's lawyers get paid hundreds per hour to do the same thing. Well, this has been Under the Hood Gaming. Like and subscribe if you enjoy pressing buttons without a subscription. I promise there's no fee involved for clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Unlike Nintendo, I believe interaction should be free. Comment below with which basic feature you think Nintendo will paywall next. My money's on the power button. Turning your console on is premium functionality, but you can still unplug it for free. Until next time, keep your wallets closed, your standards high, and your fan games hidden from Nintendo's lawyers.